Yes, there's a bunch of actual PC hardware news, graphics card stuff. I promise you we are going to be talking about that kind of stuff. However, more on the gaming side of things for a minute. You get a Daniel rant because I just saw this article when I was about to start filming this video, and now you get a rant because the original Dragon Age Origins is one of my favorite games of all time, and the Dragon Age, the EA CEO, just listen, the Dragon Age the Veilguard's failure might be due to lack of live service components, according to EA CEO. This shows just a mind-blowingly out-of-touch CEO who does not understand Dragon Age's audience. I am Dragon Age's audience. Like I said, the first one was one of my favorite games of all time, as were its spiritual predecessors, Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, which were also produced by BioWare back in their heyday. And then they have, for some reason, shifted further and further away from what people actually liked with Dragon Age as they've made the series. So no, adding live service would not have saved Dragon Age the Veilguard. Doubling down on what made Dragon Age Origins great and Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 great is what would have sold amazingly well with the audience that these games have. What is my evidence for this? How about Baldur's Gate 3? Which, while not produced by BioWare, but not that the people at BioWare are much of the same people who produced the original ones anyway, but it is absolutely following up in these as the spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, which again, Dragon Age Origins was a follow-up on. And it had sold about 15 million copies back when this article was published, which was March of last year. So it's probably sold quite a few more since then, as opposed to Dragon Age the Veilguard, which is apparently somewhere around 1.5 million players, and some of those are probably through EA's subscription service rather than actually paying for the game. So no, you don't fix this by making it a live service title, and your original plan of making it a live service title that you then backed off of and made the development of the game take 10 years is what's making it cost so much to produce this kind of game in the first place. By the way, Baldur's Gate 3 does have some kind of online components to it, and it's still being played quite a bit. We have Baldur's Gate 3 at top 14 in the top played games on Steam. Now, EA's CEO's point is the fact that most of the most played games and the biggest money makers are indeed live service titles. I acknowledge that. If you look at the top played games on Steam, it is mostly live service titles. But that doesn't mean you can't still sell an absolutely insane number like Baldur's Gate 3 by giving the audience what they want. Now, what do they want? What made these games so brilliant? I actually went back and played through at least the beginning of Dragon Age Origins after I finished Veilguard, because yes, I'm such a fan of Dragon Age, I still played this, and I kept hoping something interesting would happen, and it never did. And that's why this game failed. The first Dragon Age game, in fact, just generally BioWare in its heyday, it was never about amazing game systems, so you could argue over whether or not the Dragon Age Veilguard's combat is better or worse. I thought it was fun. It's very different. But that wasn't the problem with Veilguard. The problem is nothing interesting happens. The companions aren't interesting, so I don't care about the things that happen to the companions, and they're not even revealed in an interesting way. In the first Dragon Age Origins, you instantly are drawn into an interesting world with interesting lore, and when you meet the companions, they have interesting characters and interesting things to say, and the way they disagree with each other and interact with each other is instantly interesting. Everything about the Dragon Age Veilguard's dialogue, characters, plot, all of it is just incredibly bland. That's why it failed. It's boring to the core audience of people who loved Dragon Age Origins and earlier BioWare titles. Your core audience, EA, they just want something interesting. Like, honestly, what made Dragon Age Origins great was like the combat, the gameplay, everything about it was really just something you did in between interesting writing segments. It's the writing. Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 used to have awesome writing, and Dragon Age the Veilguard did not. It didn't fail because it lacked live service. You know what has awesome writing and characters? Baldur's Gate 3, and it sold super well. And again, the idea that single-player RPGs don't have an audience and you have to go for some kind of mass market live service appeal also doesn't make sense, because when I just open this up, I notice Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is in the top 5 on concurrent players on Steam charts right now. That kind of blew me away, because the first game was fairly obscure. Like, I know it did sell over 1 million copies, but like, I think that was a Kickstarter-funded game originally. And, my video talking about its performance, it did pretty dang well, performance-wise, which is nice. And I went up and looked up sales, and it looks like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 sells 1 million copies in its first 24 hours. Metacritic has it as one of the highest rated games of 2025 so far. And again, I've actually been playing this quite a bit, even after my performance video, because I'm just enjoying it, because I'm drawn in by the setting and the writing and the characters. I'm interested in what's happening. And again, they're not coming in with a big name franchise like the Veilguard. And if Veilguard only has 1.5 million players, which is what they're saying, and not all of those are sales because some of that's EA's subscription service, the fact that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is already probably on pace to match or beat Dragon Age the Veilguard's sales, despite the fact that this is coming from a massive company like EA, from a well-known studio like BioWare with a huge franchise name like Dragon Age, just shows that you need to make the game that these audience want. There is a market for high-quality single-player RPG experiences, and what they want is good writing, good characters, interesting plot, interesting lore. They don't need live service. And if you're gonna do something like that, maybe do it along the lines of Baldur's Gate, where you have, you can play through the single-player game with some companions if you'd like. Anyway, I should probably actually start talking about PC hardware at some point in this video, since that is the primary focus of my channel. There's my rant. AMD promises full details on Radeon RX 9070 series soon. This is coming from Frank Azor himself, who, if you are unaware, is within AMD. This is coming straight from AMD. He's replying to a tweet that says, "Great news, now we can see the RDNA Can we see the RDNA 4 full presentation? I honestly feel you can prevent many gamers from getting a 5070 or 5070 Ti if you show this before those launch. I'm literally invested in the company. I have been so for 10 years, blah, blah. Don't miss this opportunity." Anyway, Frank Azor promising, yes, full details coming soon. Now, he doesn't say exactly when, and apparently he also replied to a follow-up message suggesting that AMD should price its cards $75 to $100 cheaper than Nvidia's RTX 5070. He stated that AMD is listening, which could indicate that the company is indeed targeting a lower price point than Nvidia. This is from videocards.com's reporting. All my sources will be in the video description. This is really going to be everything, and this is probably a big reason why AMD has been waiting so long to reveal their cards. There's really probably two main reasons that have been hinted at. One is they want a software like FSR4 actually up and running and ready to go, so we're getting the March release. Now, why not give us the price and performance targets before then? I think they're waiting for the 5070 and 5070 Ti to hit before they can price accordingly and show their performance accordingly. Now, as I've talked about in a recent video, we're not expecting mind-blowing price-to-performance uplifts from the 5070 and 5070 Ti when compared against the 4070 Super and 4070 Ti Super that they're basically replacing with a minus $50 MSRP. So, if AMD can deliver with some big generational uplift, the question is then, what can they deliver on price? Because they are still facing the same realities as Nvidia regarding like process node advancements, also coming with price hikes and things like that. So we have to see what they're able to deliver. Now, when is coming soon? The best leaks and rumors regarding that is late February. So now that's according to BenchLife. So we'll have to see what we make of that. It says, if nothing unexpected happens, AMD will hold a press conference for the Radeon RX 9000 series based on the RDNA 4 GPU architecture at the end of February, but the details are still to be confirmed. Now, what that's really, I think, again, saying is they're probably holding off until we get the 4070 and 4070 Ti. We have their performance, we have their price, we see their availability, we see the public reaction to that. and then AMD could come up with, and here we have this, which hopefully beats its performance noticeably and comes in at hopefully a lower price. We'll have to see what comes of that. And again, a huge amount of this is going to be riding on FSR 4 with both game support and quality. Because NVIDIA's DLSS 4, out of all this 50 series stuff, and a lot of it maybe not going amazingly, especially when we get into talking about pricing and availability, the new transformer model for DLSS is very impressive. Now, along with that, there's also some talk of other technology features. We had a lot of looks at DLSS's updates, but there's also RTX Mega Geometry, which is now available in Alan Wake 2. Now, I haven't had a chance to look at this in any depth myself. I have been too busy covering other topics. However, Digital Foundry does have a video published today about this, and it is looking very interesting. I will say that in the screenshots, in their side-by-sides, I'm not feeling like the graphical fidelity is a mind-blowing update, but in terms of like, ooh, look at those side-by-sides, it's a huge difference. But what is nice is the fact that it's delivering some improvements, but it's doing it at a reduced performance cost. That's the cool feature, that it is increasing performance while delivering similar or better image quality. And then also that's reducing the burden on both the GPU and CPU, it looks like. So pretty interesting. Again, a link to this video in the video description if you want some more details on that. Now, let's talk a little bit more about what's upcoming from Nvidia, because we know the 5070 and 5070 Ti are coming very soon in February. I don't think they've set a specific release date publicly yet, but they have said February publicly. Now, what about the 5060 and 5060 Ti? Well, we've got some information about that. One is NVIDIA is cutting the GeForce RTX 4060 supply because they want it to go end of life and dry up on stock as they launch the 50 series. You probably noticed this with the higher end 40 series cards already. As we started to get into 2025, the 4080, the 4090, the 4070, the 4070 Ti Super, all of those started to dry up in availability and prices going up. And, it's a different result in various regions, but that was happening. And it was no accident. It's because NVIDIA was cutting their production so that the 40 series wasn't competing directly in the market with the 50 series. This was one of the issues the 40 series had with the 30 series, because the 30 series got massively produced due to crypto mining, but then the crypto boom hit before all of that supply had cleared. So then the 40 series came in, and how do you price it, right? If you price it the same as the 30 series, but it offers better performance, then nobody's going to buy all that 30 series stock. Plus, they just want more profits. Plus, the TSMC node was more expensive than Samsung. Anyway, it was complicated. But the point is, they ended up kind of pricing the 40 series just above the 30 series, and 30 series just kind of slotted in underneath. And they lived in the market simultaneously for quite a while. Looks like NVIDIA has been trying to avoid that with the 50 series, where they make sure most of the 40 series stock is cleared before they actually launch the 50 series. And that's where we're seeing this. Now, regarding the 5060 and the 5060 Ti, the rumors are that it will be featuring a normal 8-pin power connector rather than the newer 12 VHP, whatever, I forget all the letters and numbers that we see on the 50 series, which, by the way, there had been some concern that 5090 connectors would be melting, like the infamous infamous 4090 cable melting scenarios. Now, there have been some updates to that cable design, the length of the sense pins, all sorts of things, as well as the rigidity of the connection itself. So we were hoping that would be a problem solved. NVIDIA themselves said that shouldn't be an issue now. However, there were some headlines saying that from Hong Kong Media PCM, finding melted cables after testing their 5090D and 5080. However, if you have seen these headlines, it's important to also get the correction where they did say that the damage actually happened when they were working on their 4090, it looks like. So the update is they're confirming they saw the burn marks on the 4090, so presumably The issue was spotted after testing the 4090, which again, on the 4090s, if you're not fully seated on that power connector, that increases electrical resistance, adds heat, you can melt the connections, and that's been the cause of a lot of the connections. Now, that doesn't mean there's not a flaw in the design, because if the design makes it very easy to not have it fully seated or for it to come loose over time, that's an issue with the design of the connector. But again, hopefully the corrections to the 5090 and 50 series connectors, being the newer design with the different length of sense pins and whatnot and rigidity of the connection, should hopefully make that not as big of an issue throughout the life of the 50 series as it was for the 40 series. What is a huge issue for the 50 series right now is availability and pricing. And I'm not just talking about scalpers. We saw this with the 30 series during the crypto mining boom, where the manufacturers themselves and the first-party retail websites started basically scalping their own stuff. Because if they're like, well, if I just sell this at MSRP and get my small profit margin, and then some scalper buys it, and they just resell it for hundreds or thousands of dollars more, then why am I not just selling it at that price that the market is willing to bear? Which ends up absolutely being awful for the consumer trying to buy one at MSRP. So not only were there already a bunch of models being sold above MSRP by design from the AIB partners, but the prices on even those are also increasing, and we're not talking just in the scalper market. We are talking from the manufacturers themselves. We have articles with proof that MSI and Asus, for example, have increased their 5090 and 5080 pricing by up to $400. And this is confirmable on their own pages when compared with the previous pricing that were available if you check like Internet Archive posts that show what the pricing was. So the manufacturers themselves are raising prices. Now, they haven't explained why. Maybe they're going to argue it's tariff pricing, because remember, we still have, at least in the US, the threat of tariffs coming in and also impacting the pricing market. Also, we're getting claims that the that 5090s on Newegg, for example, are being sold in massive bundle deals. So that's another thing that happened during the whole crypto mining boom, was that sometimes the best products were only sold in bundle deals along with a lot of other stuff that you might not actually want, and sometimes it's stuff that Newegg or whoever else is trying to clear. Anyway, all of this is really starting to remind me of back around that 2021 era, where I literally wrote a blues song about crypto mining, COVID, inflation, all of that leading to the death of affordable MSRP PC gaming cards. So if you just take this song, replace crypto mining with AI, replace COVID with tariffs, and maybe just leave the inflation in there because we're not really done with that problem, you might have a very relevant blues song to play us out today. So I'll let it do so.
Song about it.
High prices are here to stay. But maybe I could win giveaway. PC gaming was fun while it lasted. I'm sure someday that we'll get past this. Instead, when will I see MSRP?
Anyway, apologize for trolling you with the song this morning, but